Okay, let's try a little experiment here. I'm going to be working through a range of blue tones, and the experiment in this is the use of a cotton ball for the ink application. I've been utilizing cotton balls for the the application of white pigment ink in the scenes, and that worked great. So I thought I would try the cotton ball for dye-based inks, and we'll see how it goes. It seems, in theory, it should work, just for the very nature that, or the very reason that it's a really soft material, so in theory maybe it would give a nice soft application of color. Now, I'm just seeing if this, my question was, if the cotton is absorbent enough to take some ink, and it's not really taking in very much ink at all. I'm barely getting any kind of application. Okay, so that being said, and I'm applying it to a layout that I've been, these layouts that I've been working on the past couple days for some compositional videos, the past two. Okay, so this is what I was thinking. I like utilizing re-inkers for my color applications, and in this case I think it's necessary. So, a little puddle of it right there. Let's see if I can get a wider application of it now. I should. Okay. Now the question is this so absorbent that it's just absorbing too much of the ink back, too far into the cotton ball? But let's see how it goes. And these are, definitely things we should explore these days, because stylus tools are no longer being manufactured, so it's good to have some other types of materials in our pocket, so to speak. Okay, alright, I applied a little bit too much here. Getting the feel of it, you know what I mean? It's a different type of application. What's the word I'm looking for? Rate. It's a different application rate, depending on what material you're using, how wide the tip is, how absorbent they are. Of course, how much ink you have, that you've utilized always comes into play, of course. That was a big puddle of this, but anyways, as you can see, or we can see, it seems to be, not bad, at least. Okay, I kind of like this too. I like it when you kind of wad up a paper towel too. I've tried that before, and that worked pretty good. But I like these materials like this because you can kind of, buff it onto the scene, or kind of move it around. Now, one thing for sure. Now, this is the first one I've done using the cotton ball, so I mean, it's not like I can make any kind of definitive statements about it, but just for me, the difference between something like this is there's the flat edge, the flat surface, and then the edges, and I'm utilizing the edges quite often for a thinner, really narrow application of ink, okay, in addition to the wider. Well, this one, I mean, it's harder to do that. So maybe you use something like this, for areas that you're, applying a wide application of it, and then you can utilize, things like a smaller one like this that has those edges. This is just your makeup sponge. Okay, and then you can do thinner applications of it. All of these things, they're really not as comfortable as the stylus tool, so I'm not looking for a replacement for that, you know, until I am absolutely out of them. But I don't know. It's good to be able to know what can work. Okay, now here's the thing. This has been saturated with that other ink. Okay, so I have a feeling that going to this like Danube blue right here, I have a feeling that I'll have an adequate amount on here because of that super saturation aspect of it. So you fill it up with another ink, so it kind of fills up the back of it in theory, and then when you apply this on here, I can see how much is on there. Maybe it's a little bit more surface oriented for the application of that color and value of blue. Okay, now one of the things I can see here is that it's a much lighter value, maybe, than a sponge. Perhaps, I don't know. It seems to be. I feel like I'm kind of like finger painting too, at least with this one. It's like the size of my finger, so it's something akin to doing some finger painting. Plus, I guess because our fingers are just so close to the surface, there's this real kind of kinesthetic aspect of it in terms of touch. And it's like we're going back to finger painting or something like that. But again, this is just my first test on here. Okay, I'm getting a little bit more control. I can kind of get that kind of narrow, tapered application of the color. So, I mean, you know, you get used to it as you do this. I mean, I'm starting to get used to it after, I don't know, whatever, 5 minutes, so this isn't too bad. It's kind of interesting. I find that with this, too, this cotton ball, I'm using more of my arm in terms of the application. With something like this, it's more of the just the hand, the fingers, in getting the that application down. But I don't know. So far, you know, so good. I've had comments before because I use that stylus tool so much. Some people say things like, "Yeah, I want to try out that technique." Okay. But I'm waiting to get all the supplies in, as you know, and such as the stylus tool for an applicator. But the techniques that I'm doing, it's more of the general concept. It's not material specific, unless you're talking about just dye-based inks in general. Or in this case, it's glossy cardstock, but this can be done on a matte cardstock as well. Or a matte paper. I could do this technique. See, it's the way that I'm layering this on there. I mean, if you're doing it on matte, it's not going to look glossy, but here's what I'm doing on. This side of the paper is matte, okay? So I'm just taking this in like this, okay? Now this area on the back is not a matte cardstock. It's not clay coated, so it would go on much smoother, but you can do these transitions like this, okay? This is just a plain paper in the back, okay? It's very absorbent, but you can get these transitions of color like that. It's rougher, though, because, you know, it's absorbing right as soon as you apply it, okay? But like a cardstock, matte or otherwise would be good. I've seen people do this on vellum. Vellum doesn't give you the intensity or the value that you can achieve with a cardstock, but it gives you this softer kind of look, and it's really great because you can do things like colored pencil in addition to your dye-based inks or whatever types of inks you're using, alcohol inks, on things like vellum, because it, you know, that vellum has some tooth for the soft media to be able to stick to. Okay, but anyways, so far so good. I'm not talking about things like lighting on here and things like that, but I'm retaining some areas of light. Here's my light source, and then we have the reflected light on the surface right here. It's coming around in here. I'm kind of making it darker in these areas because you have this cove kind of blocking out the light. Anyways, this is the Danube blue being applied in here. Okay. Let's see if we can brighten it up a little bit with some of this Bahama blue. Okay. I don't have another cotton. I need to go get some more cotton balls, which I could do by pausing this video, but I don't feel like it right now. But let's just go straight on to this one. One thing about this, I guess you could save, certain cotton balls. This is your blue one, then you have one for yellow and whatnot, but I don't know. It might be a little bit more of a disposable type of experience, using this, which, might not be as good as, this foam brush. I can use these, I've mentioned before, for 10, 15 years of heavy usage, but these ones I might be going through, quite a bit. I feel like this one's already getting pretty worked. But they are accessible. They are very, I think, reasonable in terms of your expenditure and whatnot. I don't know, I'm getting the feel of it now. It's, I don't know, that kind of, originally it was really weird, but it's kind of conforming to a different shape now, instead of being, this larger cloud or something like that. It's, I don't know, it's getting more compact too, the more I use it, because I'm kind of pressing down like that into it. So, if you try this out, give yourself a little bit of time to get used to it. I don't know, I feel like I'm completely used to it now. Okay, working the darker areas in here. Now, just because you're using, a certain applicator or tool, doesn't mean that you can't use others. Like, I did that one with the cotton, or I didn't use that because I was using the stylus tool. Use, both or whatever, if they come in handy for you. This would be great for kind of that first coating. The stylus tool is good too, but let's say I didn't have the stylus tool and I had, some cosmetic sponges like this, then use this for, your smaller details or whatever, because you have access to the edge. And then use this one for the larger areas. You can use paint brushes or makeup applicators and whatnot. Just anything that you can find. A wadded up paper towel, you can do something like this, okay? And go for a kind of a smaller tip like that, okay? This is just a paper towel. And ink it up like that. That becomes your brush, right? And let's apply some of this right in those shadow areas, okay? Now I know crafters, I know you like your tools and things like that too, but if you don't have it, make your own, That's one of the fun things about this. It's not these applications like this. I try to make my techniques too as readily available to whoever wants to do it, okay? Because when I first started doing this type of look too, none of these things were out. Cotton balls were out there, and, paper towels, but things like stylus tools and, the different brushes and applicators just weren't around, so we just did whatever. Now, over the years, I've come to use tools that I find more convenient and ergonomic and whatnot, maybe. But things like this are not too bad. Alright, let's go back to that cotton ball. Alright, I'm starting to get kind of dark on that. Let me see. Actually, there was quite a bit of ink left on there. Alright, let's try. I love my Caribbean blue, but let's utilize a different portion of it. I guess we're going to get inky fingers too from this technique, potentially. Alright, now I'm going back into kind of a bare area. Okay, there's more is being applied. Maybe this pad is a little bit more inked up than that first one that I went with the Danube, or what was I using? Summer Sky or something on there. Okay, so, ooh, that's a lot of ink right there. I guess it was really wet. Okay, my scene is getting a little bit wet too because of all the inks that I've used, so I guess the same things apply. You know, the more moist the surface becomes, the more of the current ink you're working with can be spread out because it's not getting absorbed into a dry piece of paper at this point in time. It's not super wet to the touch or anything like that, but the pulp of the paper and the surface do start building up quite a bit of ink. Okay. Look at that. It's kind of warming up the entire scene, isn't it? With that Caribbean blue. Kind of makes it a little bit more welcoming, you know, when you kind of introduce a little bit of temperature to this scene. I mean, it's not like a hot scene or anything like that, but it just gives it a little bit more of that warmer, bluish tinge, which I don't always want, you know. Sometimes I want a more, you know, like a cool, very cool color scheme, but that doesn't look too bad, and not too bad for kind of a makeshift applicators with that paper towel. And like I said, I would leave a little bit more of it lighter over here, but you know, I didn't have full control over it either, so kind of getting the feel of it. Let me go back to this part right now, the darker part. And what I like to do on scenes that I utilize black for my impressions, not all of it, but I like to utilize that same color, okay, for my shading, but I work up to it through the lighter tones first within a given color scheme. So, okay. Not too bad. I'm getting that kind of gray application that I'm kind of going after. Okay, let's see. Let's try for a little bit of a vignette. Let me go on the... It's interesting, you know, I find I'm working this way like this, and I'm probably using more of my index finger, but then you can use your thumb too, and I don't know, it almost feels like a different applicator in some ways, so it's interesting. I'll have to keep a bag of cotton balls right next to my table, perhaps. Desk. Okay, so there we go with that. Look at my fingers. You can wear gloves or whatever. I don't know. I don't. But, I don't know. If I was doing an 8.5 by 11 using these, I might throw on a pair of those, I don't know, little disposable gloves maybe. Okay, so let's go back to this cotton ball for some of the pigment ink applications. Alright, here too. I mean, this is a video about the pigment ink, but let me hit some areas with a little bit of alcohol ink in here. Okay, let me hit some areas with the shadows. I'm just using a really light blue right now. It's barely visible, but I kind of hit it with a little bit of the light first. This one's a little bit darker, and you use that for the shadows. Kind of just adds another layer of transparent inks. You can put your little streaks like this into your water, okay? All right. Kind of minimal. Well, okay, one more actually. All right. A little bit of darker blue in the shadow areas, okay? And then I go dark, and then I go back to light to blend that out, that darker tone. Okay. It's like a blender tool. For me, I just go back to a lighter version of the color, and I usually utilize that to blend out. Okay, so just a subtle little thing. All right, let's see if we can utilize this. This one's, I don't know, this cotton ball's much, much bigger than that other one, but tempted. Let me use, okay, my fingers are already inked up. I'm just doing this to make a point of utilizing like one thing. Let me see if I can get that little bit as an applicator here. Okay, it's not ideal because this one's all folded in and whatnot. All right, let me blot off some of this. Okay, and let me see if I can capture this on the lens. Let's see if we can see some different effects in here. Okay, now I'm going for some really thin, light applications of this. Okay, so don't go straight into your pad, soak up a ton, have this really coated with ink, and then you apply a big blob of it, okay? So, hopefully I've kind of tapped off enough of it. And let's see what we can do here, okay? The trees that are right next to the, the moon, and around that moon, I'm tapping a little bit of this ink, okay? So doesn't that look like those trees right in here are a little bit farther back, or they're definitely being affected by that light? See that little subtle difference right there? And see around that moon how there's that haze? That's the pigment ink, okay? Let's put a little bit on this water surface, and it's kind of making the lighting really soft in here, okay? In some areas where and I'm applying it where light meets kind of a darker area. So in many cases it's white meets dark. Okay, there's a little bit of that cloud right here. Let's put some of that tree maybe in a little bit of fog or haze or illuminated moisture, vapor, or whatever. So this right here, okay? I'm putting in a little bit right here because you're seeing that light is hitting right there. And there's a little bit right here as well. Okay, so you see a little bit of a transition right here. Doesn't that look like light? It's being illuminated right in here now. And magic of the cotton ball, right? Okay, and here's a little area in here. Let's put this little fisherman and a little bit of fog. It kind of envelops things a little bit in a little bit of this atmospheric, I don't know, whatever conditions that exist in this scene. So let's look at that right there. Isn't that a fun little addition right there? See that? So it says that the light is kind of being affected, or this area down here is being affected by that lighting up there. So there's this, you're creating this little passage of light by doing these little touches like this. That's why I've kind of retained some areas of light in here. And plus, if you kind of use some of this, like this, over in the distance like that, doesn't it kind of push it back farther in terms of visual space like that? Because things, you know, that are farther away are lighter in relation to their values, okay? So this is supposed to be the same type of tree, you know, Cove, as this one right here, but I just stamped that out in a blue instead of a black, okay? You see that right down here? So you've created a little bit of continuity, too, between that foreground image. It's, you know, it's within this range, okay? It's probably more the mid-ground with this. But it has the same type of texturing as that in the background like that. So it's like this, this, and this share something in common. I can put it like it's a little bit of this tree too. See, it's a little bit lighter behind this tree. So you can dab a little bit down here, and you can tell this is very dry. So yeah, it takes a few taps for it to even apply, but then you get that really light application of it. But doesn't it look like the light is hitting that tree limb now? So things look a little bit more dimensional that way. Okay, I think it really works here where light meets dark. And in the background that was lighter to begin with, so the addition of this is more subtle. Alright, so I think we have a decent tool potential, okay? See this Lakeside Cove here, too? There's one impression right here, and there's the other one. And I just put a little bit back there. Doesn't that kind of push that a little bit back, a little bit farther? And it makes it look like this part of the cove is closer. So, you know, you can create a little bit of distance within that, you know, little space, too. Okay? So it's like this oscillation of some pigment ink applications and not. So instead of doing it all over the whole thing, you know, it's just a little bit touches here and there. Okay, so anyways, this took us, you know, a pretty far away. I don't know. I guess I could use it again for black or whatever. And my fingers are a little bit inky, or a lot inky. But, hey, you know, I can wash off my fingers and whatnot, but I don't know, it's a small price to pay for, you know, a finished piece that I think looks pretty decent here. And as far as the ink applications go, I think they're fine. You're working in a wider area than something like the stylus tool. You can work wide and thin, but maybe that's where you employ, you know, things like this, you know, for those smaller streaks and whatnot, so I don't know. I'd recommend giving it a try, you know, and see if you like the feel of it. I kind of got, you know, when I liked the thumb part where I was doing that. That felt really, that felt really good in terms of the ergonomics of it too. Okay, and just that smooth transition. I don't know. I'll have to try it again sometime, but not too bad. Okay, so anyways, if you haven't used one before, maybe we've revealed to you that you have more, yet another crafting tool within your, you know, list of supplies. The Q-tip type of thing would work good too, I'm guessing. You can just ink up one of these. I'd kind of fray it out a little bit, you know, for some ink applications and whatnot, but yeah, it's not too bad for maybe a smaller detailed area. Give it a try, see if you like it. Let me know in the comment section what you found and whatnot. I don't know, maybe we go for some different types of looks too, maybe a cloudy sky or something like that, where we can do like little swirly types of applications of something like this. It might be interesting. So yet another tool to explore. All right, thanks for watching.